The boundaries between dimensions have collapsed, forcing countless worlds to merge into one. Within the heart of Seoul, at Gwangwon, a massive assembly of forces from every dimension gathers. The Republic of Korea Armed Forces, Alternate World Holy Knights, the Infernal Legions of Hell, and the Mechanical Combat Forces of Machine Civilizations all stand united with a single objective, to subjugate the catastrophe that threatens the very existence of those now trapped in Seoul. Their enemy is none other than the dimensional dragon, Niduk. Amidst the chaos and battle preparations, a young girl contemplates an entirely different dilemma: what dish she can cook to feed such an immense and diverse crowd. The mere thought of gathering enough ingredients for such a task feels overwhelming, but as she slams a book shut, her mind is made up. With newfound determination, she flips the restaurant sign to open, marking the beginning of something entirely different from war. 2 years pass. The restaurant still stands, bustling with customers, though they are far from ordinary diners. A monster sitting at one of the tables chews thoughtfully, wondering aloud where Niduk might be. Only the dragon's tail was ever found, and then it disappeared. Despite the assumption that the chaos would subside once the dragon was gone, the powers from each dimension have simply resumed their conflicts. Forced to coexist in Seoul, their battles continue, yet in this small establishment, there is something different. Another monster sitting nearby muses that it has become difficult to enjoy a simple meal outside with the ever-present fighting. However, the existence of this restaurant, this small pocket of peace, is a relief. A green-skinned creature across from him voices his agreement, delighting in the rare tranquility of eating without fear. As he glances around, he sees the restaurant filled with beings of all races, from every dimension: warriors, demons, aliens, and more, united by a single, universal need, the desire to eat in peace. The conversation shifts as one monster asks the other if he has heard about the Demon Lord. Before an answer can be given, the chef, Sua, approaches with steaming bowls of fairy mushroom noodles, interrupting them with an apologetic smile. While the alien-like monster eagerly digs into his meal, he suddenly brings up the rumors of a newly born Demon Lord, a name that has begun to spread. Belial. Sua listens as the monster recounts what she has heard. Belial, according to whispers across the city, was born some time ago in the Gangseo area. In a short span, he has already begun his conquest, leaving destruction in his wake. He has claimed dominance over the demon kings of Gangseo, and the fear now gripping Seoul stems from the certainty that he will soon move to claim the rest of the city. It is said that his power rivals that of Niduk from 2 years ago, stirring unease among those who remember the devastation of that time. Far from the warmth of the restaurant, the Demon Lord himself sits atop a mountain of corpses, his hunger gnawing at him. Some of his victims remain barely alive, twitching at his feet. He observes them with disdain, calling them unfortunate for having caught his attention at such a time. Their existence, their refusal to bow before him, has irritated him. Now, they must pay for that mistake. As he takes a deep breath, a scent reaches him, one so enticing that he suddenly stops. Back in the restaurant, a man quietly cuts into a steak, his movements steady and deliberate. The alien-like monster at the next table gestures toward him, pointing him out to her companion. This man is Percival, the wandering warrior swordsman who once defeated a demon king in his own dimension and saved his world. Even in Seoul, he remains a force to be reckoned with, continuing his battles against villains who threaten the city. Sua's eyes light up with excitement at the mention of his name. If he is truly that famous, she thinks, she should get his autograph. The alien-like monster shares his enthusiasm, wanting one for himself. Meanwhile, the green-skinned monster remains skeptical. No matter how powerful Percival may be, he doubts that he could be stronger than Belial. A playful bet begins between the two monsters, with one wagering in favor of the wandering warrior and the other siding with the Demon Lord. Sua, noticing their antics, scolds them lightly for their habit of betting on things like this and tells them to focus on their meal instead. As she walks away, the monsters lower their voices but continue whispering about their bets, careful not to let her overhear. In the kitchen, Sua stirs a simmering pot, satisfied with how the broth has reduced into a rich, flavorful base. She reaches for the salt, only to realize it is missing. A slight frown crosses her face. Without hesitation, she steps into the dining area, calling out to the gathered monster. She informs them that she needs to step out for a while. One of them looks up, concerned, and asks if everything is all right. Sua assures the monsters that everything is fine, she just needs to step out to buy some salt. Before leaving, she sternly instructs them not to cause any trouble in her absence. The monsters immediately protest, grumbling that they are not children who need supervision. With an exasperated sigh, she shuts the door behind her. Not even a minute passes before all the monsters simultaneously turn toward Percival. The question is on everyone's mind, will he be going after the Demon King this time? The alien-like monster confidently places his bet, firmly believing that Percival will emerge victorious. He scoffs at the idea that he would come all this way just to turn tail and run. Percival, who has been eating in silence, suddenly slams his spoon onto the table, his movements sharp and deliberate. The room goes still as he rises, hand hovering dangerously close to the hilt of his magic sword. Panic spreads among the monsters. They had only been joking, there was no need for him to draw his weapon. Percival, however, remains unfazed. He states that they have saved him the trouble of searching for his next battle. Without another word, he points his sword toward the entrance, where an ominous presence looms. The Demon King stands there, his horrifying aura suffocating the room. He merely smiles. Meanwhile, at Mom Choice Mart, Sua finds the salt she needs. She tosses it into her basket, muttering that this will be the last time she shops here. She'll have to find a new mart soon. As she turns to leave, her gaze lands on a saucepan, its polished surface catching the light. She never expected this store to carry such an item. She contemplates whether she should buy it. Just as she reaches out, a deafening explosion rocks the ground. The sound comes from the direction of a restaurant. Back at the Peace Restaurant, a fierce battle unfolds. Percival and the Demon King are evenly matched, clashing with deadly precision. Percival launches forward, his blade cutting through the air, aiming directly for his opponent. However, the Demon King merely smirks, taunting that Percival is still not strong enough to take him down. With a brutal strike, he sends the warrior crashing into the floor. The Demon King sneers, irritated by the constant attacks. He demands to know why they keep provoking him when he is already starving. His patience wears thin. The Demon King among the monsters frantically shouts for the restaurant's owner. The monsters exchange nervous glances before hesitantly admitting that Sua isn't here. The Demon King's expression darkens. If that's the case, he declares, then they're all going to die. A sphere of blazing energy materializes in his palm as he roars in outrage. How dare they simply sit here and eat while he starves? Percival watches intently, finally realizing that this opponent is no joke. The Demon King prepares to unleash his devastating attack, but before he can, a voice cuts through the chaos. From behind, Sua calmly asks what the Demon King would like to order. The entire room falls silent. The Demon King turns his head, locking eyes with the girl who just entered. Sua takes a sharp breath, taking in the sheer destruction before her. Her restaurant is in ruins. Exasperation fills her expression as she demands to know what the hell is going on. Hadn't she explicitly told them not to cause trouble while she was gone? The monsters scramble to explain themselves, shifting blame toward the Demon King. He, however, is completely unfazed by their words. Instead, he glares at Sua and demands to know who she thinks she is. Without hesitation, she answers. She is the owner of this restaurant. The Demon King processes this before issuing an order. If that's the case, she should hurry up and prepare his meal. Glancing around at the wreckage, Sua sighs. With the restaurant in this state, there is no way she can cook properly. She asks if he would like to order something off the menu instead. The Demon King's eyes scan the menu board, but his expression twists in confusion. Every dish listed looks strange to him. Then, his gaze lands on one item in particular, Niduk tail soup. Sua casually informs him that they don't have the ingredients for that dish at the moment. At this, the Demon King's temper snaps. His fury explodes outward as he wipes out the remaining furniture with a wave of his power. Silence falls as he glares at everyone present, declaring that he is the Demon Lord. When he demands food, they are to bring it to him no matter what. However, what truly enrages him is the fact that Sua remains completely unfazed. Unlike the others, she shows no fear. This only worsens his frustration. Who the hell does she think she is? With a calm, steady voice, Sua repeats herself. She is the owner of this restaurant. But then, she flips the question. Who the hell does he think he is, making such a mess in her establishment? She scoffs, unimpressed. All he has done since he arrived is yell at people. She questions whether his parents ever taught him how to behave in public. The Demon King's expression contorts in sheer rage. He lunges forward, power crackling around him. But before he can strike, Sua swings her newly purchased saucepan, landing a solid hit right on his head. A deafening thud echoes through the room as his entire body slams into the floor, embedding him deep into it. She doesn't stop there. Without a shred of hesitation, she sprinkles salt onto him. She has had enough. Yelling in frustration, she demands to know what they plan to do about all this destruction. She continues to dump the entire container of salt over the defeated Demon King, declaring that he will take full responsibility and fix the place himself. The poor Demon King remains motionless, his mind struggling to comprehend what just happened. Did he really just get smacked into the ground by a human girl? The other monsters, having already learned their lesson, exchange knowing glances. They quietly comment that the Demon King is still new to Seoul, barely a week old. He has a lot to learn. One of them decides to enlighten him. The girl's name is Sua. She is the owner of this restaurant. 2 years ago, when the dimensional dragon Niduk threatened to destroy Seoul, it was Sua who single-handedly defeated it. And at the ceremony for the opening of the Peace Restaurant, she served Niduk tail soup. She is the strongest chef in the dimension. 2 years ago, the barrier between dimensions collapsed, forcing countless worlds to merge into one chaotic mess right in the middle of Seoul. Naturally, the available space and resources weren't nearly enough to sustain everyone, and as expected, things escalated in the worst way possible. The Great Dimension War began. Since every dimension was at each other's throats, Seoul quickly turned into a wasteland of rubble, destruction, and a never-ending supply of unnecessary drama. Now, 2 years later, the massive monsters that once terrorized the city are busy beating each other up, which is honestly quite convenient for Sua. She strolls through the battlefield, effortlessly finishing off any remaining creatures in her path. It must be her lucky day because, right as she steps out, she stumbles upon exactly the ingredients she was looking for. She can already tell that everyone is going to love it. Meanwhile, Percival, the so-called strongest man, is putting the finishing touches on the restaurant sign. He yells at the one-week-old Demon King assisting him, demanding that it hold the stairs tightly. The Demon King, barely a week into existence, kicks at the ladder and questions whether Percival is actually afraid of falling. Percival trembles so hard that it looks like the Demon King wants to die on the spot. Clutching the hammer tightly, he leaps high into the air, fully intent on smashing the Demon King into the ground. But the Demon King, calling him a little cockroach that he is, dodges effortlessly. Undeterred, Percival goes for another swing, but once again, the Demon King sidesteps with ease. Before things escalate any further, Sua, radiating pure irritation, grabs the hammer mid-swing and glares at both of them. Her mere presence is enough to make them tremble. Anger flickers across her face as she reminds them, quite forcefully, that she never gave them permission to turn the restaurant into a battleground. To shut them up, she presents them with a steaming plate of dimensional monkfish. But this isn't just any ordinary monkfish, no, this is a last warning disguised as a meal. Both Percival and the Demon King, now thoroughly bruised from the beating they just received, stare at the dish in complete defeat. With no other choice, they pick at the meat. The Demon King scoffs that he got beaten up for no reason because Percival was the one who started this for no apparent reason. After taking a single bite, immediately starts choking. Turns out, the dish is way too spicy for him. Percival, unimpressed, scoffs at him for making a mess everywhere. The Demon King jumps up and down in outrage, demanding to know how Sua can even think of serving such inedible food. Sua, completely unfazed, happily munches away, mocking him for acting like a baby. Fuming, the Demon King swears that one day, he will kill both of them. Sua, rolling her eyes, tells him to stop whining, hurry up, finish his food, and get back to fixing the restaurant. Does he even have any idea how much money she loses every time they decide to trash the place? She sighs, rubbing her temples. She's going to have to work extra hard just to pay the rent this month. At this, Percival pauses, confused. He turns to her and asks if she actually pay rent for this place. Sua glares daggers at him. Of course, she does. Does he think she just owns a restaurant in the middle of this lawless, ruined city? She has her own circumstances, and if they know what's good for them, they'll shut up and start fixing the damage they caused. Stretching her arms, Sua sighs. Running a restaurant in a war-torn, monster-infested Seoul is really hard. And just when she thinks she might finally get a break, a group of knights on horseback suddenly comes charging into the city. Sua and her two chaotic idiots pause and look back at the incoming dust cloud. One of the knights lifts his visor and, in a voice full of authority and just a hint of concern, the Holy Knight orders Vice Commander Lancelot stands at the front of the group, looking all knightly and important as he asks Sua how she's been. Sua, ever the businesswoman, squints at the large crowd behind him and immediately asks if they're here for dinner. But before he can answer, she quickly adds that it's a shame because she definitely won't be able to serve them today. Lancelot brushes off the dinner talk, saying that food isn't what brought him here. Instead, he points straight at the Demon King and asks if Sua would be so kind as to hand him over. Sua, naturally, is not about to just give away one of her biggest troublemakers, who, admittedly, is currently doing manual labor for her. She starts to argue, but before she can get a full sentence out, Lancelot drops to one knee and grabs her hand, dramatically declaring that they'll pay her any amount she wants for the sake of peace. Sua, more confused than flattered, tries to respond, but first things first. She asks Lancelot, politely but firmly, if he can please let go of her hand. Before he can do so, a voice from above thunders, "That's enough." A woman descends from the sky, her sharp teeth bared in irritation. Does Lancelot really think they're going to let him do whatever he wants with the Demon King? This is Beale, an upper-ranked demon, and she wastes no time commanding the Hell Demon Legion to protect their lord. At her words, a swarm of demons hovering above gets into battle stance, ready to throw hands, or claws, or whatever appendages they have. Beale lands right in front of Lancelot and, completely ignoring the tension, clings to Sua like an old friend. "Long time no see," she chirps, before pleading with Sua to let them take the Demon King back. She even makes a formal promise that they'll teach him well with the best hellish educators so that nothing like this ever happens again. Lancelot, clearly not buying this nonsense, shouts that she's obviously lying. Does she seriously expect them to believe that the Demon King can be taught manners? Beale, now personally offended, demands to know who said demons couldn't learn manners. Lancelot scoffs, "Didn't the Demon King already slaughter a whole bunch of people?" Beale weighs this off as a minor detail. That was only because those people were scum who refused to submit to him. Completely reasonable. At this point, Sua has had enough. She loudly declares that the Demon King is busy fixing her restaurant, so no one is allowed to take him right now. But, if they really want to speed things along, they can all help fix the place up so it gets done faster. Once the restaurant is fully operational, then and only then she couldn't care less who takes him. With no other choice, everyone, holy knights and demons alike, begrudgingly joins in. And thus, for the first time in history, natural enemies work side by side to renovate a restaurant. At one point, a knight leans in and quietly asks Lancelot what the plan is. Lancelot, still focused on his mission, tells him to inform the others. Once the restaurant is fixed, they will take the Demon King. They just have to be patient. Meanwhile, Beale whispers the exact same thing to her demons, because obviously they know the knights will try something shady. They, too, will be ready. Despite all this tension, Sua cheers them on, completely oblivious to their scheming. "Almost done! Keep it up!" Finally, after a ridiculous amount of work, the restaurant is back to normal. All that's left is putting up the signboard. While everyone else stands there, drenched in sweat, Sua steps away to organize some furniture, thanking them for their efforts. Lancelot and Beale, now on high alert, know that this the final nail in the sign is the moment they've been waiting for. As the Demon King raises the hammer, preparing to drive in the last nail, Lancelot activates Holy Blade Form 1 while Beale casts a demonic defense spell. Both of them are ready to grab the Demon King the second he finishes. Meanwhile, in her own little world, Sua stretches and thinks that the only thing left is a group dinner. Maybe she's been thinking too much like a merchant, but hey, she should at least sit down and bring it up. Just as Lancelot and Beale lunge toward the Demon King, a typhoon. Out of nowhere, a monstrous gust of wind sweeps everyone into the air. Within 1 second, they're all spinning like laundry in a washing machine. Another second, and tables are being forcibly set. A third second, and every single guest is seated, plates in front of them. Total time Sua took to forcefully set up this group meal? 3 seconds. Clapping her hands, she declares that, since everyone worked so hard today and since she just so happened to catch some fresh monkfish, she asks if all the dimensional beings would like to enjoy a meal together. Sweating profusely, everyone nods. No one dares to refuse. While everyone eats in silence, Lancelot turns to Percival. He's heard a lot about him but has never seen him in person before. He then, very seriously, asks if Percival would consider joining the Knight Order. It's hard taking on strong enemies like Naduk and the Demon King alone, and if they teamed up, things would be much easier. Percival, shoving food into his mouth, doesn't even hesitate. Not interested in a group of weaklings. On the other side of the table, Beale side-eyes the Demon King, realizing that he's not eating. She points out that he must have lost his appetite after being surrounded by scum for too long. Lancelot, immediately insulted, yells that they are the ones making others lose their appetite. Beale, unbothered, simply grins. She wonders if other people can hear a puppy whining? And just like that, another argument begins. Before it can escalate, the Demon King suddenly stands up, silencing everyone. He walks over to Sua, and she sighs, already expecting him to complain about the food. But then, hesitantly, almost embarrassed, he says that he wants to work here. Silence. Absolute silence. The entire restaurant knights, demons, Percival, everyone stares in pure shock. Even Sua, who has seen some ridiculous things in her life, is left standing there, mouth hanging open. What the hell? Late that night, with a dark and brooding presence, Sua confidently announces the start of the interview for becoming a staff member at her peaceful restaurant. The Demon King stands tall, exuding confidence no challenge can possibly defeat him. The first test is cooking. Sua demonstrates with a beautifully shaped bunny cookie, a true work of art. The Demon King, on the other hand, presents his own creation, which looks like something that barely survived an apocalyptic disaster. The shape is questionable at best, but he remains unfazed, convinced that taste is what truly matters. Taking a bold bite, he immediately spits it out. The sheer saltiness could turn a freshwater lake into an ocean. The second test is dishwashing. It quickly becomes apparent that the Demon King is no more skilled in this than in baking. Plates slip through his fingers as if they have a personal vendetta against him, smashing onto the floor one after another. The third test is cleaning. The Demon King, with unwavering confidence, takes a rather extreme approach. He believes the best way to handle garbage is to burn it. At this rate, the entire restaurant is moments away from becoming a pile of ashes. With each failed test, it becomes painfully clear that the Demon King has no talent for working in a restaurant. There is only one task left: serving customers. He cheers himself up, convinced that this is his moment to shine. An elderly dwarf, Wei-Zhen, enters, exuding an air of importance. As the head of a merchant crew, he orders a serving of braised Odin raven wings. The request immediately causes alarm. Sua knows they don't have the ingredients for such a dish. The Demon King, instead of handling the situation with tact, glares at the dwarf and bluntly tells him to leave if he doesn't like it. Sua, horrified, swiftly smacks him from behind, knocking him down. Wei-Zhen, unfazed, expresses disappointment. He had been looking forward to the dish, reminiscing about how he was lucky enough to have it 2 years ago. Back then, Sua had managed to obtain the rare ingredient due to a dimensional disturbance, but ever since, she hasn't seen another Odin raven. The Demon King scoffs at the situation, questioning how a restaurant could claim to serve anything if they don't even have something as basic as Naduk soup. Sua, exasperated, apologizes, but then throws a sharp remark: if he can't even manage to get hired in a place that supposedly has nothing, what does that make him? That hits a nerve. The Demon King temper flares. Furious, he quits on the spot, slamming open the door and declaring that he doesn't want to waste another second in such a pitiful establishment. As he storms off, he curses the restaurant, wishing for its downfall. Not that he actually cares about working there. His true goal was something far greater. Every demon is driven by an insatiable desire, something deep within them that defines their very existence. His desire is absolute rule. Every being in existence must bow before him. That is the reason he was born, so powerful to reign supreme over all. But with Sua in the way, his conquest remains impossible. This is why he even lowered himself to such humiliation, attempting to infiltrate her space under the guise of a job applicant. His plan was simple: pretend to work while uncovering the source of her strength. As he broods over his defeat, Sua watches from inside, puzzled by his outburst. Wei-Zhen, sensing the tension, decides to leave as well. Sua expresses concern about him departing so early and wonders if they should consider adding more variety to the menu. The dwarf, ever the practical merchant, remarks that he traveled all this way specifically for raven wings. Forcing himself to eat something else would be an insult to his wallet. Before he can take another step, the Demon King reappears in front of him, glaring so intensely that Wei-Zhen stumbles backward in shock. Without explanation, the Demon King commands him to wait. He is going to get those raven wings, no matter what. Without hesitation, the Demon King launches himself into the sky, soaring toward the clouds. High above the world, Odin ravens perch in their hidden nests, their golden eyes ever watchful. These birds, known as the eyes of the gods, are considered sacred, untouchable beings. Wei-Zhen once told him that in some lands, people believe that without the will of the gods, one could never even lay eyes on such a creature. Becky finds that idea laughable. Gods, fate, destiny, none of it matters to him. He is the Demon King. He will make everything in existence bow before him. And as for Sua, she will pay for the humiliation she made him endure today. The distant sound of wings flapping reaches his ears. He inhales deeply, catching the scent of the mystical birds. Above him, concealed by a magical barrier, lies their hidden nest. He smirks. Such feeble tricks won't fool him. With a surge of power, he shatters the barrier, exposing the ravens. It is time to bring them down to earth. Back at the restaurant, Wei Zhen shakes his head in mild amusement. The Demon King just went after one of the gods' ravens. This is bound to be interesting. He comments on how Sua seems to experience some truly bizarre situations in her life. Sua, watching the sky, begins to wonder, will the gods let Becky get away with this? Wei Zhen, ever the composed one, inquires whether the Demon King is actually working at the restaurant. Sua sighs, explaining that she had rejected him, but somehow, all these fools had begged her to at least give him an interview. Now, she finds it strange why the sudden change of heart when they were all so eager to take him away before. Lancelot, maintaining a neutral expression, explains that he simply thought the Demon King might be reformed a little under Sua's supervision. Internally, however, he has a different thought. Perhaps Sua is the only one who can actually keep the Demon King in check if he stays here. Beale, laughing, casually remarks that Becky should do whatever he pleases. But deep down, Beale also sees no harm in getting the Demon Lord on Sua's good side. Sua, ever practical, firmly states that she cannot hire someone who is completely useless at his job. Even though the Demon King had declared that he was going to fetch an Odin raven, she remains confident that he will fail. After all, even she has never been able to locate their hidden nests. At that very moment, the restaurant door is kicked open with dramatic force. The demon, battered and bruised, strides in, scoffing at the idea of being compared to mere mortals like her. A collective gasp spreads through the dimensional beings in the room. Beale, noticing the fresh wounds on his chest, voices his concern, but understanding dawns as everyone's eyes lock onto what he is carrying. A slain Odin raven. Sua, for the first time, is genuinely impressed. She cannot fathom how he even managed to find the nest. The Demon King, clearly reveling in his own superiority, smugly declares that he is simply built differently. His senses are 10 times sharper than any human's, so tracking down a mere bird was child's play. Puffing up with pride, the Demon King demands that Sua finally admit she is an incompetent woman who couldn't even catch a single bird. Sua, rather than getting defensive, merely laughs and agrees. She genuinely finds it fascinating that he was able to succeed where she had failed. This was not the reaction the Demon King had been expecting. His triumphant moment is thrown off balance. Before he can dwell on it, Sua raises an eyebrow and asks why exactly he brought back a baby raven. At this, the Demon King stiffens slightly but explains that it was the only one in the nest. Sua, shaking her head, informs him that this is a huge problem. According to Wei Zhen, young Odin ravens lack their signature golden feathers. Only one is born per generation, and the entire flock raises it together. The adults usually leave the baby in the nest while they go out hunting as a group. Now, thanks to the Demon King's brilliant idea, when the ravens return to find their precious child missing, there is only one logical outcome. As if on cue, a deafening screech fills the sky. The entire flock, a storm of black and gold, descends upon the restaurant in a coordinated assault. The Demon King, watching the chaos unfold, immediately panics. His overconfidence kicks in, assuring himself that he can handle this. But as the ravens circle closer, hunger for vengeance in their eyes, a hint of doubt creeps into his mind. Before he can charge in recklessly, Sua steps forward. With a calm yet deadly aura, she declares that, thanks to the Demon King's little adventure, they now have a rare opportunity. For at least the next few days, they will have an ample supply of Odin raven meat. One particularly massive raven swoops down, talons aimed directly at the Demon King, ready to tear him apart. But before it can land its strike, Sua stands her ground, gripping her knives with practiced ease. In a matter of seconds, she displays a terrifying mastery of butchery, slicing through the raven with surgical precision. The Demon King, watching from the side, feels something he rarely experiences: disbelief. He had already known Sua was strong, but this was something else entirely. What kind of woman is she? And just how powerful can one person be? With the battle over, the Demon King, still feeling awkward, presents the Odin raven wings to Wei Zhen. His usual arrogance wavers just slightly as he mumbles for the merchant to enjoy his meal. And then, the most crucial moment arrives. He looks back at Sua, waiting for a verdict. Did he get the job? Sua, observing him for a moment, gives him a simple thumbs up. Approval granted. The entire restaurant erupts into cheers. Sua, watching the sheer enthusiasm from the gathered crowd, chuckles to herself. It seems like everyone is getting way too excited over this. Meanwhile, far from the lively restaurant, a shadowy figure watches from a distance. With a smirk, he murmurs to himself, contemplating the absurdity of the Peace Restaurant forming an alliance with none other than the Demon Lord. This, he decides, cannot be allowed to continue. Turning slightly, he directs his question toward a hidden presence in the darkness. It is none other than Naduk. Beale celebrates, the Demon King starting his first day of work at the Peace Restaurant, and skepticism barely covered how the Demon King felt about the whole situation. Watching her prepare for the day, the Demon King couldn't help but question why Beale was making such a fuss about him working there. Beale, always one for dramatic speeches, made it clear this was no ordinary restaurant. This was the restaurant of Sua, the so-called hero of Seoul. If the Demon King could establish a good connection with her, they would basically secure the strongest possible ally in all of Seoul. The Demon King listened but remained unimpressed. Still, as he left for work, the other demons enthusiastically shouted after him, wishing him a good first day. Their excitement was misplaced, but Beale's words lingered in his mind. A good connection with Sua, huh? He clenched his fists. The very thought was infuriating because Sua was the only one blocking him to have world domination. The great Demon King, working under a woman who was standing between him and world domination and wearing a cute apron while doing so. But this was only temporary. One day, she and her restaurant would belong to him. As soon as the restaurant opened, the usual crowd poured in, filling the place with their usual chaos. A monster flagged him down, ready to place an order. Without hesitation, the Demon King took it, moving with surprising efficiency. Sua, observing from behind the counter, was mildly surprised he was working harder than she had expected. The Demon King, on the other hand, was quite pleased with himself. Sua was already starting to fall for his innocent act. Did she really think he was working hard just for her? Hardly. He had only one goal: to uncover the secret behind her power. Days passed, and the Demon King's patience wore thin. He sat at one of the tables, visibly frustrated. Something was clearly wrong. The restaurant had so many different races, warriors, and factions present at all times, and yet not a single war had broken out. He mulled over the bizarre situation, growing more and more irritated. How was he supposed to witness Sua's strength if no one ever fought in this damn restaurant? He gritted his teeth. Of all the infuriating things, the sight of demons and knights' natural enemies eating together peacefully was the worst of all. This was unacceptable. The Demon King grits his teeth. How dare they? How could they pretend to be friends after everything? Then again, he had no right to be questioning anyone's hypocrisy, considering he had been the cause of that fight in the first place. Meanwhile, at another table, a demon sat patiently waiting for his food, absent-mindedly admiring how shiny the table was. Another demon sitting beside him casually mentioned that it was actually the Demon King himself who had cleaned it. At this revelation, the demons immediately brightened up. Truly, their Demon King was amazing. What couldn't he do? Meanwhile, the Demon King himself had learned only one thing during his time at this wretched restaurant: how to clean a table. The Demon King knows that Sua was the one who saved everyone from that monstrous being. What was it called again? Niduk? Yeah, that thing. He mumbles to himself, realizing that his first priority should be tracking down that creature. But before he can put any solid plan into action, Sua's phone suddenly rings. She answers, listens for a moment, and then tells the caller to hold on. Turning to the Demon King, she announces that she has a favor to ask, one that only he can do. The Demon King, upon hearing this, feels a strange mix of curiosity and unease. He's the mighty ruler of demons. What kind of task could she possibly have in mind for him? Cut to the next moment. The Demon King is hovering in the sky, and he is not happy. The grand mission Sua entrusted him with? Not slaying a giant monster. Not investigating some ancient, world-threatening evil. No, it's delivering chicken. Anger boils inside him as he clutches the delivery bag, heading toward the destination Sua provided, the Manhwa area near the Han River. Normally, reaching this place wouldn't be a big deal, but the volcanic region has made the roads completely inaccessible. Flying is the only option, which is precisely why Sua roped him into this. She also made a very specific request: do not eat anything from the order. He promised, but, well, the Demon King isn't exactly known for keeping promises, at least when it comes to food. He reaches the designated spot and looks down. Below, a group of monsters wave at him eagerly, as if signaling him to land. The Demon King descends, landing gracefully, and then, trying to maintain some level of dignity, asks if they are the ones who ordered the chicken. The alien-looking monster steps forward, clearly delighted, not only at the sight of the food but also at the Demon King's swift arrival. It is especially thrilled about getting to taste the legendary Odin Raven chicken, a dish it had only heard rumors about. Apparently, thanks to Sua, these monsters have been able to try all sorts of exotic foods, just like that Niduk soup from before. Wait, the mention of Niduk makes the Demon King pause. His expression darkens. He calls out to the monster and demands more information. The scene shifts. The Demon King is now flying back, deep in thought. He recalls the chaos from when dimensions first began colliding. Seoul had turned into a war zone, with beings from different worlds suddenly forced to coexist. Fighting over land, resources, and survival was inevitable. And then, in the midst of all that, it appeared. The dimensional dragon, Niduk. A catastrophic force of pure destruction. The strongest, most terrifying being to ever appear in this chaotic world. Its only purpose? To obliterate everything in its path. Even rival forces who had been fighting one another set aside their differences and united against it. But their efforts led only to despair. And yet, that same Niduk was single-handedly defeated. Not by an army, not by some god-tier warrior, but by one person, Sua, the very same woman currently running a restaurant. The Demon King struggles to wrap his head around this revelation. If Sua was powerful enough to defeat something as devastating as Niduk, why was she here, casually making food for random creatures? He isn't the only one who has questioned this apparently. These monsters have asked her before, but every single time, she dodged the question. And now, the Demon King has a new theory. If Niduk was truly this powerful, then it must remember Sua. It might even hold a grudge. And if that's the case, perhaps, just perhaps, he could use that to his advantage. If he plays his cards right, maybe just maybe he could team up with Niduk. But first, he needs to find it. He finally arrives back at the restaurant, lost in thought, when suddenly bang, the restaurant door bursts open, and customers flood out, screaming in terror. Some even shout warnings at the Demon King as they run past, urging him to flee for his life. Confused, he watches them go, then slowly turns back to the restaurant entrance. And then, as if sensing the danger himself, an image flashes in his mind. Niduk. His body tenses. Could it be? He nervously steps inside and locks eyes with the person sitting comfortably at a table, casually eating. His voice comes out slow, cautious. He asks Sua who this person is. Sua, completely unfazed, glances up and almost lazily says that this must be the Demon King's first time meeting her. She then gestures toward the woman at the table and introduces her. Niduk. The Demon King's entire worldview shatters. This little shrimp of a person sitting in front of him, eating like she just rolled out of bed. This is the legendary dimensional dragon, the monstrous catastrophe that nearly destroyed Seoul? Meanwhile, Niduk is far too focused on finishing her meal to care about the Demon King's existential crisis. She eats the last bowl, wipes her mouth, and then looks at Sua expectantly. Sua, raising an eyebrow, asks if she even has the money to pay for all this. Niduk, without hesitation, assures her that she does. Then, without missing a beat, she says she'd like to order one more thing. The best item on the menu. And, of course, that would be Niduk tail soup. Bro seems to likes her own flesh. Interesting. 2 years ago, in the chaotic mess that was Seoul, beings from all dimensions were at each other's throats, fighting over who had the right to exist in a city where reality itself was barely holding together. In the middle of all this chaos, a small girl stood, looking incredibly out of place. Warriors, demons, and interdimensional creatures all paused for a moment, wondering just what kind of reckless child had wandered into a battlefield. Lancelot, ever the noble knight, was the first to act. He rushed over, his armor glinting despite the dust and destruction around him. He knelt down and, in the most serious tone possible, told the girl Niduk to leave at once because this place was far too dangerous for someone like her. But Niduk, the supposedly helpless little girl, did not seem concerned. In fact, she was focused on something entirely different. She was hungry, very hungry. And then, without warning, she declared that she would eat everything. The words had barely left her mouth before her body began to shift, stretch, and expand into something massive, something monstrous. The small girl was gone. In her place was a massive dragon, its scales gleaming with raw power. The warriors who had paused to watch immediately regretted their curiosity. However, just as Niduk was about to feast, she felt something strange, something off. Seoul wasn't just filled with prey, it had something else lurking in its shadows. Something stronger than her. A predator. For the first time in her life, Niduk felt it. Fear! From the sidelines, the Demon King, ever the dramatic presence, scoffed at her hesitation. If she was so scared, why was she still eating so comfortably, stuffing her face like she was at an all-you-can-eat buffet? Niduk, however, was unbothered by his remarks. She continued eating, completely relaxed, and explained through a mouthful of food, of course, that she had been watching closely. Stalking, even. And from her observations, she had learned one thing: Sua, the predator in question, was terrifying outside. But inside a restaurant? A totally different beast. In a restaurant, Sua had no need for customers. And as long as Niduk was here as a customer, she was safe. Not one to take chances, she had even brought a large amount of money to secure her meal. Sua was unimpressed. She crossed her arms and demanded to know exactly how much Niduk was talking about. Unfortunately, in her excitement, Niduk burst out the answer in the form of vomit. Literally. Sua's eye twitched as she watched the mess unfold. The Demon King sighed, already anticipating what was coming next. With a deep breath, Sua ordered him to clean up the disaster, fully expecting that Niduk would vomit after eating that much. But then, something odd happened. What Niduk spit out wasn't vomit. It was dimensional crystals. Dimensional crystals were priceless objects, formed after Seoul's many dimensions had collapsed into each other. They contained immense energy and served as a valuable currency source in the city. Sua stared at the pile. With this much, she wouldn't have to worry about rent for at least a month. But before she could even think about pocketing them, Niduk growled protectively. She was not handing them over. Not until she got what she came for, her tail soup. Sua blinked, then sighed. There was just one problem. The ingredients for that soup? They were from 2 years ago. There was no possible way to recreate it now. But more than anything, Sua was curious. Why was Niduk so desperate for this specific meal? Niduk gritted her teeth. The truth was painful, but she finally explained. Her true power had once been in her middle tail. But because of Sua, she lost it. To get it back, she had done the unthinkable. She had entered the dimension crack. Beyond the dimension crack, there was another world, a gap between dimensions. A place where creatures carried immense energy. For 2 years, she had hunted and eaten, believing that she would regain her power. But no matter how much she killed, no matter how much she ate, her power never returned. And then, she felt it. In Seoul, there was only one place where she could sense the energy of her lost power. The Peace Restaurant. If she ate here, she might be able to get her power back. So, naturally, she demanded the tail soup again. Sua, ever the realist, rolled her eyes. Whining wasn't going to magically make the ingredients appear. If she could make the soup, she would have already done it. Niduk, however, was not buying it. She knew the energy was here. She could feel it. Even now. Suspicious, Sua called the Demon King over to just confirm things for her. But he had already sensed it too. Only, there was a problem. It wasn't coming from Niduk. Sua narrowed her eyes. If it wasn't from her, then where? The Demon King closed his eyes, focused, and then his eyes snapped open. He bolted toward the gate. The smell of the energy, it was right there. And as they all rushed outside, they were greeted by the sight of a creepy woman. She stood there, smirking. Sua, unimpressed, had no idea who she was. But the Demon King? He did not like this one bit. He immediately demanded to know who the woman was. The woman simply smirked wider. And then boom. A great blue explosion rocked the street. From within it, blue dragons emerged, the air thick with their power. And it was unmistakable. They were Niduka's duplicates. The creepy woman chuckled darkly and gave them a simple warning: do not get stronger than this. Because Seoul belongs to her. One of the blue dragons turned its attention to Sua and let out a roar. But Sua? She didn't even flinch. In fact, she looked thrilled. Her only thought? There was so much meat. Bro JS, her priorities straight set. Stepping forward, she casually told the real Niduk to keep an eye on her crystals and to tidy up. Because she was going to make sure Niduk ate to her heart's content today. For some reason, this statement sent a shudder down Niduka's spine. But there was no time to think about that. Sua turned to face the fake Niduks, cracking her knuckles in anticipation. From behind her, some alien-looking monster cautiously warned her that this was dangerous. But Sua? She only grinned. Dangerous? No. Today was going to be a feast. And as the original Niduk watched the scene unfold, she was suddenly reminded of the nightmare she had lived through 2 years ago. That day, too, Sua had been hunting for the menu of the day. And now, that same terrifying grin was back. Because today's menu was going to be Niduk course special. Bro is so cool. The dragon roars at her, but with a single, swift strike, she slashes its throat. As the massive beast collapses, lifeless on the ground, she surveys the scene. This is more than just a pile of ingredients, it's a feast waiting to happen. Without hesitation, she declares that preparations should begin immediately. Sua, however, is still trying to make sense of everything. Regardless of the confusion, there is now a mountain of meat, and with that much food, inviting the whole town seems reasonable. But before anything can be done, Niduk interrupts, signaling that it is not yet time. There is still one more left. As if on cue, the air shifts. A presence unlike any before fills the space, something far more ferocious than anything they have encountered. Standing before them is a girl who looks exactly like Ni-Duke. Not just a resemblance, she is identical. The original Ni-Duke stares at her doppelganger, who, rather than showing any hostility, licks her lips as if faced with the most exquisite meal. There is an unmistakable hunger in her gaze. Drool begins to form at the corners of her mouth, and in that moment, the truth becomes clear. This imposter is not just here to fight, she is here to eat. Ni-Duke does not hesitate. If consuming this fake one will restore her power, then she will strike first. Lunging forward, she prepares to devour her copy. The plan, however, does not go as expected. The fake Ni-Duke moves with unnatural speed, dodging the attack with ease. Before the original can react, she is slammed into the ground with devastating force. The creepy lady standing at a distance clicks his tongue in annoyance, as if inconvenienced by the spectacle. She barely acknowledges the battle, muttering something under her breath. The fake Ni-Duke turns to him immediately, apologizing, as though throwing Ni-Duke into the dirt was some minor misstep. She dismisses her concerns with a wave and gives a simple order: the original Ni-Duke must be finished. The fake one moves to complete the task, but before she can, the Demon King intervenes. There will be no slaughter happening under his watch. Charging forward, he raises his weapon, prepared to strike down the imposter. But something is wrong. Just as he prepares to deliver a decisive blow, he stops. His eyes widen in confusion. When had she dashed? It is already too late. The fake Ni-Duke's tail is wrapped tightly around his leg. At what moment had she managed to seize him? Before he can react, she yanks him off balance, sending him hurtling backward, and delivers a brutal punch to his torso. Sua, watching the entire scene unfold, calls out in alarm. Her voice carries urgency, concern laced in every syllable, but before she can take another step, the creepy lady observing from afar smirks. There is no need for her to intervene, he muses. This time, they will make the first move. Before Sua can fully process what is happening, a powerful punch sends her flying in the opposite direction. The creepy lady watches her disappear into the distance, then calmly orders the fake Ni-Duke to pursue her. She reasons that someone like Sua will not perish that easily, she must be finished properly. Without hesitation, the fake Ni-Duke disappears after her. Left alone, this lady allows herself a quiet chuckle. Sua, she thinks, never could have foreseen this. The Peace Restaurant's first dish, Ni-Duke tail soup. Through careful genetic manipulation, using stolen remnants of Ni-Duke meat from that very dish, she has created the being now chasing Sua. Out of all her creations, this one is his true masterpiece. She had invested not just time, but ambition, passion, and something bordering on obsession. And now, the irony is undeniable: Sua's most carefully crafted dish has returned to devour her. Meanwhile, at the Gangnam Holy Night Fortress, an urgent announcement spreads through the city, instructing all civilians to take refuge and follow the knight's commands. The air is thick with tension. In the crowd, Cuddle leans toward Kim, whispering something only he can hear. He speaks in hushed tones, barely audible over the panic. Kim listens, but his confusion is clear. Cuddle does not make him wait long for an explanation. Word has spread that a herd of Ni-Duke has been seen in Mapo. Kim stiffens. A herd? What use is a fortress when the entire world is about to be overrun? There is no escaping this. The knights, he knows, will be of no help. If survival is the goal, they must take matters into their own hands. Elsewhere, Lancelot stands frozen, a grim realization washing over him. Reports confirm that Ni-Duke has reappeared not just one, but several near the Peace Restaurant. A horrifying possibility takes root in his mind. Could it be that an entire tribe has come for revenge? If so, even with Sua's strength, they are in grave danger. As he wrestles with these thoughts, an explosion erupts behind him. Panic spreads as civilians scream. Someone has crashed into the ground. Without hesitation, Lancelot issues orders. The knights are to protect the civilians, while the senior knights will follow him to the impact site. As they arrive, several knights cry out in confusion. A person? Some believe so. Lancelot, however, wastes no time on speculation. He demands identification, eyes locked on the figure emerging from the dust. As the debris clears, the fake Ni-Duke stands before them. Lancelot does not hesitate. He knows this presence well. 2 years ago, Ni-Duke had stood before them just like this. But this time will be different. This time, they have trained. This time, their swords are ready. The fake Ni-Duke meets his gaze, unimpressed. Sharp claws extend from her fingertips. She is prepared for battle. Yet, before the fight begins, a voice cuts through the tension. Disappointment drips from every word. Sua, having arrived unnoticed, observes the unfolding events with a mixture of amusement and exasperation. Sliding her knife along the fake Niduke's tail, she takes note of its structure and points that it's not good to steal a chef ingredients. Lancelot does not understand. He questions her meaning, but the answer is already clear to her. The moment she touched that tail, she knew the truth. Beneath the hard exterior, there is no flesh, only bones. And if those bones are boiled properly, they will create a broth beyond anything imaginable. There is no hesitation. Sua acts without delay. The fake Niduke attempts to strike first, but Sua anticipates it. With precision, she counters the attack and makes her move. She will not allow anyone to interfere. Leaping high into the air, she brings her blade down with exacting force, severing the tail. The ingredient is now hers. Sua, having gathered all the necessary ingredients, finally she decides to work on her rice broth. She hums, completely unaware that on the other side of reality, the old creepy lady is watching her every move on a screen. Her frustration is palpable, her plans are unraveling, and she is not taking it well. In a fit of rage, she slams his foot down on the ground, and suddenly, all the dead dragons lying around spring back to life. With a booming voice, she orders them to finish the Demon King and Niduke. But just as she's about to continue her grand villainous monologue, an enormous, eye-shaped monster swoops down from the sky. Without hesitation, the creepy old lady climbs inside it and vanishes, leaving behind an army of undead dragons now hovering menacingly around the Demon King and Niduke. The Demon King, who had been in the middle of a well-earned nap, is rudely awakened not by an epic battle cry or a heroic entrance, but by the overwhelmingly rancid breath of these dragons. It's absolutely vile. His eyes snap open, and his first instinct is to curse whoever allowed these creatures to exist. Niduke, on the other hand, wakes up with only one thought in her mind: she's hungry. She stretches, yawning, completely unbothered by the chaos unfolding around her. The Demon King watches in disbelief. How is she this nonchalant? There are dragons hovering over them, and she looks like she just woke up from a refreshing nap. Blinking, she casually asks why there are dragons here. Without hesitation, the Demon King throws the blame on Sua. Niduke, still groggy, wonders if these dragons are edible. The Demon King, amused by her utter lack of concern, grins and tells her to stuff her stomach as much as she wants with them. Meanwhile, back in Sua's world, Lancelot watches her skills with admiration. He praises her, then asks her to leave the rest to him. He knows that Niduke is the reason for destruction. He understands that she must be eliminated for the sake of the weak. Determined, he raises his sword, prepared to strike, but before he can land a blow, the same monstrous eye from earlier appears again, swooping down and snatching Niduke into its gaping mouth before flying off into the sky. Inside the creature, the creepy old lady grits her teeth. She was so close to losing her masterpiece. She hadn't expected things to go this badly. Maybe, just maybe, her calculations were off. Glaring at the screen in front of her, she directs his frustration at Sua. Who is she? Sua, unfazed, meets her gaze with a bold expression. If she is that curious, why doesn't she introduce himself first? The old lady chuckles, clearly entertained. She is not one to back down from a challenge. With full confidence, she tells her to keep running her restaurant until next time. And the next time she appears, she promises to bring something even more remarkable. With that, the monster disappears, leaving Lancelot standing behind Sua, utterly bewildered. Just who is this woman? As she processes everything, something suddenly clicks in Sua's mind. She completely forgot about the service dinner. She didn't prepare anything. In a slight panic, she turns to Lancelot and asks him to bring the tail to the restaurant for her. Back in the battle, the Demon King is exhausted. Fighting is tiring, and frankly, it's making him really hungry. Niduke, unimpressed by the dragon's existence, declares them disgusting and allows the Demon King to devour them instead. He thanks her with the sincerity of a man who has just been gifted a free buffet. But before he can dig in, he senses something. Descending from the sky is a man in a red suit. He lands with an exaggerated superhero pose, very much like something straight out of the Avengers. The Demon King squints. Who is this dramatic individual now? The man straightens and introduces himself with full authority. He is part of the ROK Armed Forces, Capital Defense Command, Superhuman Unit Rangers Red. Residence? Unknown. The Demon King, now beyond done with random people dropping out of nowhere, lets out a long sigh. Just who the hell sent this one? Before he can even process Red Ranger's existence, another figure steps forward, appearing through a swirling magic circle. This new arrival, radiating an air of nobility, casually informs Red Ranger that Sua is currently in Gangnam. The Demon King narrows his eyes. This one looks like he's from the tiger tribe. The moment he steps forward, he points out how Sua recently defeated a major threat with a single strike, and he personally plans on praising her for it. He formally introduces himself. He is King Ars from the magic world, Arzulun Kingdom. He resides in Chongdam Castle. Before the Demon King can even react, another presence emerges, a majestic white wolf. Calmly asks King Ars when he's going to stop obsessing over Sua. And then, from the side, a girl absolutely enraged steps forward, declaring that she is going to be the one to praise Sua first. She introduces herself with pride. She is Soul, an apex predator nine-tailed fox from the wild world of natural selection. She resides in Gildong Ecological Park. Before the Demon King can even finish processing this, yet another individual steps in, irritated. His time is precious, and he does not enjoy being kept waiting. This one introduces himself as Rio, the chief engineer from the world of science and engineering, Entricon. He resides in Yongsan Electronic Market. The Demon King watches this absurd parade of introductions with growing disbelief. One after another, they keep showing up and spouting the same nonsense. He finally snaps. Just who the hell are they? Soul, completely unbothered by his frustration, calmly explains. They are Dimension Lords. Seeing his confused expression, she sighs. Okay, she'll break it down in a way he can understand. Essentially, they are all rulers of their respective dimensions, and they'd like to have a meal. Without missing a beat, she turns to the Demon King and politely asks if he can usher them to the VIP seats. The Demon King, now pushed to his absolute limit, lets out an exasperated expression. Him? Ushering this ridiculous group to a fancy meal? What a journey this is turning out to be. Ars states with certainty that being placed outside like this is unusual, while the Dimensional Lords sit outside, observing their surroundings. Soul scoffs at the restaurant staff, noting their lack of proper manners, but Rio only laughs, pointing out that there is little they can do. Peace Restaurant is the safest place available, and they have no choice but to tolerate the poor service. Meanwhile, the Demon King grows irritated, shouting at them to be silent, calling them freeloaders. His frustration mounts as he grits his teeth, refusing to believe that such a shabby establishment could have VIP seating. Impatiently, he pushes open the door, wondering just when Sua is going to return, only to be met with an unexpected sight. Sua is already inside the restaurant. Shocked, he demands an explanation, questioning why she chose to enter through the back door when the front entrance was working perfectly fine. Sua, unbothered by his outburst, explains that since she had been at the back of the restaurant, it was only natural for her to use the back door. She then scoffs at him, questioning why he is outside instead of tending to the VIP guests. The Demon King, still bewildered, admits that he had no idea such a place even existed. As he turns his attention to the meat grilling before him, he scrutinizes the area, questioning what kind of place is being designated as the VIP section. Sua casually informs him that it is chosen for its good view. He casts a skeptical glance around view, his ass. All he can see are the ruins of bones. Annoyed, Sua moves away, stating that she will bring more dishes, but before leaving, she instructs him to turn the skewers to prevent them from burning. Left standing there, still hungry, Niduk hesitantly asks if she is allowed to eat. The Demon King, irritated, declares that since she is the most annoying, she will be served last. Meanwhile, the dimensional leaders burst into laughter. One of them, amused by the situation, remarks that despite ruling his own dimension with relentless hellfire, here in Seoul, the mighty Demon King is reduced to grilling skewers. The Demon King, his temper flaring, curses at them, warning them to shut their mouths before he tosses them onto the grill as well. However, in his distraction, he suddenly realizes that the meat is burning. Panic surges through him. If the food is ruined, Sua will surely kill him for it. At that moment, Rio calls out to the Demon King, intending to ask him something downstairs. Meanwhile, Sua's soup has now reached a rich, flavorful state. Confident in its quality, she is certain that it will even restore Niduka's strength. As the final dishes are prepared, she calls upon Lancelot to help her carry the food. Reluctantly, he agrees, though he hesitates, questioning whether he really has to wear the apron. Now, he fully understands how the Demon King must have felt in such a situation. Sua, however, finds the sight amusing, commenting that it looks cute on him. At last, the full-course meal is presented. Niduk, eager and excited, asks if she is allowed to eat everything, and Sua assures her that she can eat as much as she desires. Ars, astonished, remarks that nearly 2 years have passed since they last had this particular dish, Niduka's tail soup. However, the Red Ranger expresses concern, wondering if it is truly acceptable to serve this meal in front of Niduk. Just as Niduk reaches for the food, Sol suddenly stops her with a firm tap of her chopsticks. Outraged, Niduk demands to know what she is doing. Sol, unfazed, counters with a question of her own, asking why Niduk is even here when she is fully aware of the reason they have all gathered. Without hesitation, Sol reveals that they have overheard everything from the Demon King that Sua is aiding Niduk in regaining her strength. She states firmly that allowing something this dangerous to happen is unacceptable to all of them. The will of the dimensional leaders is the will of all of Sol, and even Sua cannot break that oath. However, they are not asking for Sua's cooperation without offering something in return. Ars, willing to make a deal, offers the treasures of his kingdom, including rare magical materials. Rio proposes an upgrade for her kitchen, transforming it into a high-tech, state-of-the-art workspace. Sol, on her part, promises to provide fresh ingredients from her dimension on a regular basis. With all eyes now on the Red Ranger, they wait to hear what he is willing to contribute. Nervously, he declares that the Republic of Korea will provide top-tier food experts to craft exclusive sauces, which will be developed in a highly confidential area and supplied secretly to Peace Restaurant. Turning back to Sua, they ask her what she thinks of their offer. However, instead of responding to the trade, she questions their intent. Are they truly asking her not to feed Niduk in exchange for all these luxuries? The leaders quickly clarify that this is not their intention. What they truly want is for Sua to eliminate Niduk. For the survival of Sol, every resident has had to fight fierce battles daily, putting their lives at risk. Yet, Niduk remains the only one endangering them all. Red Ranger interjects, reminding everyone that even though Niduk has calmed down now, there is no guarantee that history will not repeat itself once she regains her strength. 2 years ago, chaos unfolded because of her, and for the peace of Sol, they plead with Sua to eliminate her. Silence falls over the gathering. Lancelot, lost in thought, silently agrees. No matter what anyone else says, he believes that Niduk was the worst thing that ever happened to Sol. Finally, Niduk herself speaks. She reminds them that she is a customer here and states that once she has finished her meal, she will leave. She promises that she will not eat them. Sua, unfazed, simply calls her name, her gaze sharp and unwavering. Panic flashes across Niduka's face as she begs Sua not to kill her. But Sua, unfaltering, merely tells her to enjoy her meal. The leaders, infuriated, demand an answer from Sua. Did she not hear their words? Is she truly going to ignore the will of Sol? In response, Sua presents them with a counterproposal. She draws their attention to the Han River, a place all of them are familiar with. The River of Death, with its unsettling glow, is known to all of them. She reminds them of the cause behind it, the crack in the dimension of Uedo, which allows poison to seep into the waters, making it nearly impossible to find clean water in Sol. She poses a question: would it not be ideal if someone were to resolve the issue within that dimensional crack? Ars, wary of her words, questions whether she intends for Niduk to take on this task. But how, when even Sua herself cannot enter the dimensional boundary? Sua explains that while none of them can cross the dimensional border, Niduk has the ability to do so as many times as she pleases. She can go into the crack, fix the problem, and in return, she will come to understand the true price of the full-course meal she is about to enjoy, the peace of Sol. At the Tukdo Hangang Water Purification Center, a facility once operated by the Korean government but later repurposed by the Dimension Lords to secure water resources, a crisis is unfolding. This center, one of the last neutral zones in Seoul, stands as a beacon of cooperation, safeguarded by powerful individuals from various dimensions. Utilizing a fusion of science and magic, a unique technology known as magic engineering purifies the Han River, ensuring clean water for the city's inhabitants. Yet, the unthinkable occurs: the purification level plummets to 9%. Alarms blare across the facility. Eris, the water purification director, quickly gathers her team, the urgency clear in her sharp tone. Contaminated water cannot be distributed under any circumstances. If consumed, it will turn people into monsters. The stakes are painfully high. Failure means the destruction of Seoul's population. Her subordinates, exhausted from working day and night, report that purification is becoming impossible. The poison crack's leakage grows stronger each day, overwhelming their efforts. Eris, unwavering, orders them to push forward. However, the reality is grim: their current pace will only sustain them for another month. If a solution is not found, they will all die of thirst. Meanwhile, at the Peace Restaurant, a tense discussion unfolds. The reports from Eris confirm the severity of the situation. Whether Niduk regains her power or not, the inevitable fate remains: everyone will shrivel up and die. Amidst the rising tension, Rio speaks, acknowledging the crisis but suggesting an alternative solution, using Niduk herself to purify the Han River. To him, it seems like the most efficient option. However, he places one critical condition: Sua must ensure Niduk remains under control. Doubt lingers in the air. The Red Ranger questions the logic behind such a plan. Niduka's abilities are the antithesis of purification. She embodies destruction. What method could she possibly have to cleanse the Han River? Eris, determined to cut through speculation, demands an answer directly from Niduk. Niduk, unwavering, reveals the truth of her existence. She was born from a dimensional crack, a being not of this world but of another fractured reality. Within Uedo Crack, a colossal dimensional creature resides, and its poison seeps into the river, corrupting the water. Her plan is straightforward: she will hunt it down. The leader of the group considers her words carefully. Could their problems truly be solved simply by eliminating the creature? Sua is confident that they can. If this is the source of the contamination, then removing it is the most logical course of action. Without hesitation, she urges them to move swiftly towards Uedo. However, Rio interjects. There is still one more matter that must be addressed. While the purification crisis is dire, their presence here is not solely for that reason. The fake army of Niduk and the mystery woman accompanying them remain an unresolved concern. At first, they assumed that Niduk had brought allies, but after gathering intelligence, Rio is no longer convinced. Something Lancelot had mentioned lingers in his mind. The woman had referred to the false Niduk as her ambitious creature. If his words hold any weight, then the implications are clear: someone is creating clones of Niduk, possibly even improving upon her original form. Sua, recalling the attack on her restaurant, confirms that these entities did not arrive with peaceful intentions. With this revelation, Rio remains firm. Even though Sua takes responsibility for ensuring that Niduk is not a threat, there is still no concrete proof to support that claim. The group now faces two urgent dilemmas: the purification crisis and the disturbing possibility that someone is manufacturing powerful duplicates of Niduk. The Demon King is furious. Why is Niduk saying this to Sua? Is he mocking her? Does he think she's his mother or something? His statement, however, gives Sua an idea, a way to prove that Niduk isn't a threat. Right in front of her, embedded in the ground, is a grill. The Demon King immediately tries to stop her, insisting there's no need for this, but the other leaders seem to think it's a great idea. Sua turns to Niduk and asks if she's okay with it. Niduk stares at Sua for a moment before turning her face away and nonchalantly accepting it. She doesn't really mind. Sua, absolutely thrilled, gears up to put her Grandmaster plan into action at Uedo. At Han River, the Demon King finds himself unable to sense anything at all. Niduk calmly informs him that inside the dimension, there is another world, one that ordinary beings can't perceive because it requires a sixth sense. The Demon King clenches his teeth in frustration. This means he can't do anything. Sua, unimpressed with his struggles, casually suggests he should just go back to the restaurant and run it. And why was Bitter Eve tagging along with them, anyway? The Demon King, ever the troublemaker, scoffs at the idea. Why on earth would he go back and slave away at the restaurant like the other leaders when it's clearly more entertaining to stay here? Niduk, ignoring his antics, gets ready to go. But before she dives in, Sua calls out, telling her to be careful down there. She also promises to make her lots of food when she comes back. Niduk, expression turns into a happy kid, assuring she will come back before plunging into the river. The deeper she goes, the stronger the force becomes. And, oddly enough, it feels familiar. Of course it is familiar. This place is her birthplace, the dimensional crack sitting right beside the river. The Demon King watches her descend and frowns. How deep was this little shrimp planning to go? Then, something catches his attention. He can actually feel it. The energy is growing dimmer. This annoys him. He refuses to believe that Sua, of all people, can't enter the dimension. He refuses to accept that there's anything she can't do. He voices his thoughts, but Sua just tilts her head and asks if being strong really means a person can do everything. Then, after a moment, she adds that she wants to be honest with him about something. The Demon King's eyes light up with excitement. Finally! He's convinced she's about to reveal her biggest weakness. Oh, how satisfying this moment is, proof that even she has limits. This is why he decided to tag along. And then Sua absolutely shatters his expectation. She simply tells him she's just not good at swimming. The Demon King is beyond disappointed. That's it? He clicks his tongue and mutters that it's probably because she keeps weighing herself down. Sua, annoyed, swings her pan at him, grumbling that not everyone is a good swimmer. She aims for his eye but immediately regrets not aiming for his mouth instead. But suddenly, the Demon King sniffs the air. His entire demeanor changes. He jumps to his feet and urgently announces that the scent of little shrimp A.K.A. Naduk has completely disappeared into the river. Down below, Naduk comes face to face with the master of the poisonous waters. She grins, completely unfazed, and then, in an instant, she shifts into her dragon form, baring her teeth. She has only one thought. She is going to devour every last bit of this monster. Go Naduk, you can do it, girl. Dimensional creatures exist in the gaps between dimensions, constantly feeding on the particles that make up the world's dimensional energy. Their bodies are filled with this energy, and they must consume vast amounts to survive. Here, in the space between dimensions, the most efficient way to obtain dimensional energy is by hunting and devouring other dimensional creatures. Meanwhile, back at the Peace Restaurant, Rio lets out a dramatic cry and smacks his finger while hammering in a nail. Soul, visibly worried, immediately asks if he's okay. Rio, holding his injured finger like he's on his deathbed, wails that he knew he wasn't cut out for this kind of labor. He had only wanted to work because everyone else was working, but deep down, he firmly believes that people should just stick to what they're good at. And clearly, he is not good at this. Only in Nai exchange looks. Nai, completely unimpressed, points out that Rio is injured. That should be reason enough for him to stop. But ASR is not buying it, not even a little. He immediately shouts that Rio is just trying to escape. In fact, they all know the truth. He probably even hurt himself on purpose. Poor Rio, I feel bad for him. Rio tries to argue that he has a genuine reason, but all the other leaders were actually done with his lame excuses. Bro just wants to sleep, actually relatable very much. Rio pulls something out of his pocket, looking at the gathered leaders with an exasperated expression, wondering why none of them believe him. ASR squints at the item in Rio's hand, asking what it is. With an air of self-importance, Rio explains that it's Naduk tail soup, a crucial clue in tracking down the person who made the fake version. That's why he wants to investigate, analyze every detail, and ultimately discover the woman who made the fake Naduk. He promises to share everything he learns with them. Naturally, the leaders are concerned. After all, SUA has not come yet, and they can only hope everything is fine there. Meanwhile, back in the dimensional crack, an intense fistfight rages between Naduk and a towering monster. Naduk sizes up her opponent, quickly realizing that this creature is no joke. Outside, the Demon King watches the battle unfold, shaking his head and muttering about Naduk being a little shrimp. But as the ground trembles violently, he acknowledges that the fight must be serious for it to shake an entire dimension. His gaze shifts toward SUA, who, oddly enough, remains completely calm. He finds this suspicious. Why isn't she worried? If Naduk fails, everything is doomed. But SUA merely shrugs, completely unbothered. She states confidently that she has faith in Naduk. After all, she has captured plenty of dimensional monsters, and among all of them, Naduk stands at an entirely different level. With unwavering determination, Naduk declares that she will devour this monster and reveal her true power. She releases a surge of energy, wrapping it around her prey, and within moments, the monstrous opponent begins to dissolve. The Demon Lord, watching from a distance, senses the shift in energy it's done. Naduk has consumed the monster's power, proving once again that she is a true predator. Not long after, Naduk emerges from the battle victorious, strolling up to SUA and casually announcing that she has eaten the Han monster. SUA, ever curious, asks if it tasted good. But Naduk, rubbing her stomach with an insatiable hunger, pouts it wasn't enough. She demands more food. SUA, eager to keep her well fed, vows to prepare a proper full-course meal this time. Outside, the restaurant is bustling with customers. A long line stretches out the door, and someone enthusiastically orders 2 bowls of Naduk tail soup. The Demon King, now temporarily reduced to kitchen duty, calls out for SUA to prepare the order. She confidently assures him it'll be ready in no time. The restaurant is livelier than ever, with chatter filling the air. It's a special occasion. After 2 long years, people can finally enjoy authentic Naduk tail soup again. And today, as a special treat, they're even offering a free Naduk full course to celebrate. Even if dimensions were collapsing left and right, everyone agrees nothing could have stopped them from showing up for this. After all, sitting down to eat Naduk tail soup with Naduk herself? That's an experience worth risking everything for. But as Naduk happily devours her food, some guests can't help but wonder, is this really safe? ASR, staring at her in disbelief, finds the whole situation bizarre, but watching Naduk eat so enthusiastically is strangely contagious. His stomach growls. Just as he reaches out to sneak a bite, Naduk, channeling the energy of a fiercely protective kindergarten student, shields her food like a dragon hoarding treasure. Absolutely no sharing. Beale, shifting uncomfortably, leans toward Sua and asks if she's sure this is a good idea. What if they shouldn't be letting Niduk roam freely? What if she suddenly decides to cause chaos? Sua, completely unfazed, reassures her that there's nothing to worry about. In fact, she adds casually, if Beale is that scared, maybe she shouldn't come to the restaurant so often anymore. Beale blinks. Wait, what does that mean? Sua, with a nonchalant smile, announces that from now on, Niduk will be living here. The entire restaurant falls into stunned silence. The very soul of every demon present seems to momentarily leave their bodies. Meanwhile, Niduk, fresh from her latest dimensional battle, suddenly pauses. Something feels different. It's faint, but she can sense it. A lingering energy that shouldn't be there. Confused, she frowns. Why? Does it feel like a creature's power is coming from Sua? The next day, both the Demon King and Sua are neck deep in the chaos of serving food when crack. The sound of something shattering slices through the already busy atmosphere. The only task Niduk had been given was cleaning, but apparently, she had taken it as an invitation to wage war against the restaurant's furniture. Both the Demon King and Sua whip their heads around to find Niduk standing amidst the wreckage, pieces of broken tables at her feet like some tragic battlefield. Sua snorts, arms crossed, and casually remarks that maybe they should just toss her into the pot as an extra ingredient. The Demon King, already exasperated, asks Sua if they really need to evaluate Niduk's work. Sua, with an almost pitying look, tells him yes, but wonders why he's even asking. That's when the Demon King explodes. Is Niduk even aware of how many tables she has single-handedly destroyed in the name of cleaning? They're already drowning in work, and somehow, she just keeps making things worse. Over the past few days, he's had to pick up even more tasks all because of her. Sua, unimpressed, declares that she simply cannot let Niduk eat and sleep here for free. The Demon King raises a brow. Didn't Niduk bring those dimensional diamonds or whatever they were called? Sua, looking so done with this conversation, informs him that she's already used those to pay the rent. The Demon King blinks. Wait, how much is this goddamn rent? Sua points out that Niduk has nothing, so she has to work to live here. Besides, they need workers, so the Demon King should just teach her well since they're stuck together anyway. The Demon King scoffs, kicking a chair out of his way, as if teaching her is actually going to make a difference. Sua side-eyes him, not him forgetting how much of a disaster he was when he first started. Before the Demon King can protest, Sua's phone rings. She picks it up, listens for a moment, and then sighs before turning to him. His crew is calling again. The Demon King's face twists into pure annoyance. What do they want now? Sua, mischief practically radiating off her, smirks. Looks like she has to give him the task this time. The Demon King's expression flips so fast. For a moment, he thinks she's finally recognizing his power, that she's entrusting something important to him, just like last time. His pride swells only to be violently crushed when he realizes that the task isn't about slaying some grand monster. It's food delivery. His teeth grind in frustration as he launches into the air, dragging a very confused Niduk with him. If they're going to do this, they're going to do it right. He glares down at her, calling her little shrimp as he explains that delivery is all about speed. His rage deepens as he realizes Sua has once again crushed his hopes in now. On top of everything, he's stuck making sure that Niduk becomes a passable delivery girl. But no matter how crappy of an employee she is now, he's confident. Under his iron rule, she will at least become the best of the worst delivery workers in Gangseo District, the Demon King's territory. As they approach the delivery drop-off, the demon workers can already sense the booming energy of the Demon King's presence. At his command, they bow immediately because, after all, the worst of the best delivery crew has arrived. And there, waiting for them, is Beale. Beale, ever the dramatic one, kneels before the Demon King and points out that she and the others have been waiting. Her eyes flick to Niduk, and she tilts her head in question. What's this little thing doing here? The Demon King, arms crossed, informs Beale that he's training Niduk. Beale beams with pride. Finally, her lord is getting a well-deserved break. The Demon King, pleased with her enthusiasm, thanks her for her loyalty. Beale responds smoothly, anything for my lord. The Demon King takes the sushi set they were supposed to deliver. Absolutely squashed, but unbothered. He laughs. This is what happens when they move at this speed, but hey, it's still the same inside, so it doesn't matter. Niduk, watching this spectacle, hesitates before asking, so, does delivery mean eating the food? The Demon King shuts that down real quick. She does not get to do what he does. He explains that Beale intentionally ordered this food just so she could rest and eat. Meanwhile, Niduk can't go around snacking on other customers' meals. Well, maybe a bite is fine. But even with that small allowance, Niduk finds delivery insanely difficult. It's definitely not for the faint-hearted or for creatures like her, who could eat the entire delivery before even reaching the customer. Once their task is done, the Demon King prepares to leave, but Beale looks at him with a raised brow. Leaving so soon? Like a true hero before setting off, he dramatically declares that everyone is eagerly waiting for his lightning-fast, slightly squashed food deliveries. Meanwhile, Niduk, ever the curious one, turns to the Demon King and asks why they ate together. She squints at him, tilting her head, and then throws another question his way. Does he mean sushi? And is he implying that she's mad she didn't get any? The Demon King, ever so slightly amused, listens as she breaks it down further. Beale is weaker than him, so why did he share a meal with her? The Demon King states that with a knowing smirk, explaining that it's the duty of a ruler to take care of their subordinates. Sure, he might govern the rebellious spirits with an iron fist, but she treats the ones who follow her with care. That, he claims, is what a true lord should do. Niduk furrows her brows at this newfound wisdom, finding it difficult. The Demon King scoffs, nodding sagely, and tells her that, of course, it's hard for a tiny little shrimp like her to understand. Back at the restaurant, the air shifts. The Demon King senses a murderous glare and turns his head. There she is. Sua, eyes gleaming with a predatory hunger, is staring at him like she's about to devour his soul. He blinks. She's got that look. The look that says he's in deep trouble. He carefully asks why she's glaring at him like that. Sua, still sporting the world's creepiest grin, reminds him, didn't she tell him to come back quickly? The Demon King, master of excuses, waves a hand and mutters something about traffic. Traffic? Sua's grin sharpens. Traffic, his butt. She really shouldn't have believed him. And with that, she spins on her heel, her annoyance lingering in the air. Meanwhile, Niduk, still processing her newfound responsibilities, gets quizzed by Sua. Did she enjoy her delivery experience? Did she learn anything? Niduk, ever the diligent student, nods. Delivery is really hard. She tries to recall her very important lesson, murmuring bits and pieces. Don't copy the Demon Lord, only take a bite while delivering, but if you are the Lord, then you can eat the whole. Sua's head snaps toward the Demon King, her aura darkening. What the hell did he teach her? The Demon King, caught in the crossfire, stares blankly, already forming new excuses. But before he can weave his next web of nonsense, Niduk suddenly remembers another vital lesson: speed. Delivery is all about speed. Sua, though still suspicious, nods. Yes, Niduk may spout some strange things, but at least she got that part right. She hands Niduk a fresh delivery box, eyes gleaming with expectation. Is she ready to try this on her own now? Niduk straightens up, determination in her eyes. Yes, she grips the box like it's her most sacred duty and takes off. Her destination, Rio in Yongsan. The guy with glasses. The Demon King casually throws in a helpful detail. Rio is the one who smells like metal and oil. Niduk, thinking hard. Right. Sua also mentioned that Rio loves drumsticks. She must not eat them. Absolutely not. No matter what, but then the smell hits her. The box is practically singing to her, tempting her to just one little peek. Before she knows it, she's already reaching for the lid. A scream shatters the moment. Her head snaps up. There, in the distance, a huge dimensional monster looms over two terrified humans armed with nothing but measly little guns. They're yelling for help, begging for anyone to take this thing down. Niduk grins. Oh, she found her meal. With a deep inhale, she activates her predator breath and lunges. The monster barely lasts a second. It's just a snack for her. She wipes her mouth, satisfied, while the two humans gape in awe. They don't know who or what she is, but they're definitely grateful. The girl hesitantly offers her a sugar cube as thanks, which, okay, is kind of underwhelming, but hey, it's the thought that counts. Then oh no. The girl's eyes lock onto the box. The humans freeze, their expressions shifting into something desperate. They fall to their knees, pleading shamelessly. At that, they haven't had a proper meal in a whole week. Would she share? Niduk immediately refuses. They are weak, but then something shifts. Their words that they will follow her echo in her mind, mixing with the Demon King's lesson. A lord must care for their subordinates. She mulls it over and finally reaches a compromise: not the drumsticks, but they can have a bite of the other pieces. The humans nearly cry with gratitude, eagerly accepting her offer. Meanwhile, back in Yongsan, Rio is not having a good time. 5 minutes. That's how long it usually takes. And yet, Here he is, waiting. Where's his damn chicken? His patience snaps, and he shouts at the heavens, where's his food? Oh, it's being eaten, alright. By Niduk and her brand new loyal followers. The scene shifts to a group of humans clinging to Niduka's tail, their cries filled with desperation as they plead for her to slow down. But Niduk refuses. Speed is the most crucial factor in this mission. There is no room for hesitation. Ahead, their path is marked by urgency, and with unwavering focus, she pushes forward. Their teacher, Rio, stands within the vast expanse of his designated territory. The girl among the group, sensing a brief moment of relief, expresses that as long as they make it to Yongsan, they will be safe. However, that sense of security shatters within seconds. The detector activates, its warning level surges. A sharp analysis of the route pinpoints a threat. Many entities are converging toward Yongsan. Instantly, the system elevates the alert to level 1. The river ahead splits into two, a division orchestrated by the city's intricate security system. The first hangar opens, its mechanical structure whirring to life as attack mode engages. Above them, the top defense savers rise, advanced combat units poised for engagement. An announcement echoes through the air. Initialization has begun. The activation sequence completes. A lethal robotic force emerges, its singular purpose clear: eliminate the target. The girl trembles, overwhelmed by the sheer force before them. Meanwhile, the boy, his fear overshadowed by fascination, gazes in awe at the cutting-edge technology now standing against them. The robot locks onto its targets. It registers the presence of a one-dimensional entity and two unidentified humans. Within moments, it escalates to maximum output, its systems calculating the most efficient method to neutralize the threat. A punch is imminent. The robot readies its strike, its power immense. But Niduk, ever focused on the delivery, intervenes. In a single, decisive motion, she delivers a blow of her own. The impact is catastrophic. The machine crumbles under her strength. A mission as simple as a delivery is anything but easy for her, but the threat is far from over. From multiple directions, a barrage of lasers erupts. More defense units have engaged, their attacks locking onto her position. Rio steps forward, his voice cutting through the chaos. He questions Niduka's presence, demanding an explanation. But Niduk, unfazed, retrieves the item she has fought so fiercely to protect. She hands him the chicken. Sua's instructions had been clear. This was meant for him. Rio, unimpressed, regards the package with a scoff. A mere food delivery? He finds the situation almost laughable. If SUA intended to conduct business this way, sending such a safety hazard into the field, she was making a grave mistake. The gaze shifts to the environment around the maze city that looks as though it has been pulled straight from the world of cinema. Yongsan, the safest city in Seoul, stands as a marvel. A creation of the Dimensional Lord, it is a place where science and technology intertwine seamlessly. Yet, amidst the brilliance, a quiet voice breaks the moment. The girl murmurs, her words laced with longing. A place like this means the people here will never have to suffer. Rio's attention shifts once more. His eyes fall on the two children accompanying Niduk. He questions her about them. Who are they? Niduk, without hesitation, provides an answer. They are underlings, she says. They had claimed they would follow her if she gave them chicken. Rio, ever skeptical, studies them carefully. A new question forms, his voice laced with curiosity. Has she eaten his chicken? Niduka's response is simple. The Demon King had told her it was fine to eat. Rio scoffs. Even in something as basic as this, it seems SUA has failed to train her staff properly. But Niduk remains unbothered. Hunger gnaws at her still. Rio shifts his focus back to the two unidentified figures. His command is immediate. The lasers converge on them, their presence now fully under scrutiny. Fear grips the children as the realization sinks in they are truly trapped. Yet Rio is far from finished. A final question hangs in the air, heavy with implication. These two claim to be Niduka's underlings, but what does that truly mean? Even the children seem startled by the notion. They have heard the name Niduk, but never before have they seen her with their own eyes. And now, faced with the truth, their disbelief is evident. Niduka's expression remains unreadable. She reminds them of their own words. They had declared their intention to follow her. Terror grips the children. The realization is crushing. The one they had so easily trusted, the one they had thoughtlessly followed, is not merely a wandering soul. She is a monster. Rio watches, amused. They had no clue. And yet they still clung to her tail? Wow, really brave. Rio, relying on his sharp instincts and his ability to read heartbeats, is certain that these kids aren't lying. But with all the chaos and horror unfolding lately, he isn't about to take chances. So, he asks them straight up, why exactly are they here? The girl steps forward first, introducing herself as Yugyong, and the boy beside her as her brother, Buyun. They used to live in Gongdik with a group of survivors until recently. Their group was ambushed by some unknown monster, and just like that, everything fell apart. Most were killed, some scattered, and in the end, it was just the two of them, struggling to survive. For days, they hadn't eaten or even gotten a moment's rest. That's why they fought their way to this place, the safest city in all of Seoul. On their way, they were lucky enough to run into Niduk, who saved their lives. So, in short, they're here seeking refuge. Yugyong, hesitant but hopeful, asks Ryo if he'll accept them. Ryo's answer? Refugees are fine and all, but what exactly can they offer in return? Back when everything was descending into madness, when dimensions clashed and the world as they knew it shattered, Ryo had used his technical skills to lay the foundation for Yongsan's defense system. Then, he gathered the best talents from each dimension, and together, they built this safe haven. Now, sure, the city has the infrastructure, the resources, and the security to ensure a comfortable life for its residents. But comfort and safety? Those aren't free. Everyone here contributes. If these kids have something to offer, intelligence, physical strength, supernatural abilities, anything, Ryo is more than willing to give them the best treatment. After all, he's the Dimension Lord. But they'll have to prove their worth. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the city, a girl watches all of this unfold on a screen. She murmurs that these kids could be useful if they can actually bring something to the table. The man sitting beside her isn't convinced. Being kind is nice and all, but they can't afford to be naive. He's heard rumors some survivors have resorted to cannibalism in the face of starvation. It's horrifying to think about, but when people are pushed to the edge, who knows what they're capable of? The girl tilts her head, pondering. Have these desperate souls completely abandoned their humanity? Still, they aren't barbarians. Letting people like that into their utopia is a tough call. But isn't that kind of thinking a little discriminatory? She laughs, shaking her head. It's just a joke. She has no intention of outright rejecting people. But at the same time, what else can they do? Yongsan is the best utopia in Seoul, after all. Inside one of the grand buildings, small flying robots drift through the air, quietly monitoring the core. And then an alarm. A red, monstrous presence begins to absorb the dimension energy. A drop point, 15.3%. This red monster leans forward, eyes sharp. Looks like someone's ready to bring this utopia crashing down today. The red monster robot, standing tall and imposing, signals the beginning of the operation with a single buzz of light. As he activates his function, the flying robots immediately adjust their targeting systems. Locked on their objectives, they prepare to execute their commands. Meanwhile, in the heart of Yongsan, the guardian goddess stands vigilant. Inside an electric car, Rip takes them along, and Niduk curiously inquires whether the robots cannot fly. In response, he clarifies that a transparent barrier covers all of Yongsan, preventing flight. However, Niduk had unknowingly destroyed that very barrier upon her arrival. The robot she obliterated had been capable of handling over 100-dimensional monkfish, creatures classified at level 12. This revelation emphasizes the sheer difference in power between these beings. Rip elaborates further, explaining that dimensional creatures are ranked based on their dimensional energy and level of danger. Niduka's abilities, however, remain beyond their standard measurements, making it impossible to gauge her true strength. As a result, they have only been able to roughly estimate her as a level 12 entity. Meanwhile, Ryo turns his attention to the system, inquiring about the progress of repairs. Given the significant damage sustained, he demands an update. The system promptly reports that while 95% of the barrier had been compromised, they have already managed to restore 92% in just 2 minutes, a testament to the incredible skill involved. At the center of it all is Minerva, the goddess of Yongsan. Ryo, with a smirk, playfully asks Minerva about the identity of the cute little hardworking fairy beside her. Minerva, ever composed, warns him that if he continues teasing her, she will have to reprimand him. However, among the observers, those at the cringe display outright disgust. Yugyong, unable to conceal her distaste, turns to Minerva with a sharp question whether she is some kind of goddess of machines. Minerva, in her usual calm manner, clarifies that she is an AI, responsible for managing all systems within Yongsan. Yet, this only deepens Yugyong's curiosity. If Minerva is an AI, then where does her divine form originate from? Minerva responds matter-of-factly it is merely a reflection of her creator's preferences. But Ryo quickly interjects, arguing that it does not solely reflect the taste of one person. Minerva concedes, admitting that while her appearance was influenced by multiple contributors, the biggest input came from him, one of the key figures behind her development. She goes on to explain that besides Rio, there were 2 other senior developers instrumental in creating her. While Rio oversees external affairs and technological advancements, these 2 handle Minerva's maintenance. The mention of them makes Rio to wonder if they had completed the tasks he had assigned. Minerva, ever efficient, notes that she has not received any calls from them. Without hesitation, she initiates a connection to the central control center. As the line opens, the receiver on the other end inquires if Rio is still with the guest. However, Rio counters immediately with his own question: why had they decided to call him so late? Amidst the hum of a bustling workspace, a man on the phone remarks that, obviously, they have been busy working as well. His tone carries a hint of expectation as he inquires about the task he had assigned. On the other end, Cheol, the management operator of Minerva, responds, his voice edged with frustration. He insists that he is, in fact, working and acknowledges their talent, but he questions how anyone could expect them to complete an inspection of Minerva, a system of such vast complexity, in such a short time. If they focused, they would be capable of handling it. Then, a request follows. Cheol asks if Rio can supply additional workers to assist them. However, he is certain that Rio will refuse, citing security concerns. Meanwhile, Gugu, sitting in the same space, exudes an air of confidence. Nearby, a captive girl remains under Gugu's watchful eye. She harbors urgent knowledge about these 2 bastards, something that Rio absolutely must know. Desperation fuels her attempt to make a call, but before she can succeed, Gugu swiftly covers her face, silencing her. On the phone, Rio detects a sound from Cheol's end. Suspicion laces his voice as he asks about the noise. Cheol, unbothered, dismisses it as an audio test. Without waiting for further questioning, he ends the call, stating that there seems to be some trouble he must investigate. Back in the room, Gugu turns toward the captive girl with cold amusement. Frustration darkens his features as he raises a hand, poised to strike, warning her that she had nearly ruined things for herself. Elsewhere, Rio remains unaware of the captive's predicament. His mind lingers on the voice of Minerva's AI, its current tone oddly pleasing to him. Yu-Gyong observes his fascination and wonders aloud if there is some special reason behind it. But Rio simply dismisses the notion. It is nothing, he claims, not the refined perspective of a sophisticated engineer. Rather, it is a simple sentiment. Minerva's voice suits her best. It is sweet. There is a certain longing in his tone, a subtle deprivation masked beneath casual words. Meanwhile, hidden beneath the shadows, Red Robot watches everything unfold, lying in wait. Gugu, ever perceptive, points out Rio's concerns, though he seems more amused than alarmed. Rio had wanted them to check for abnormalities, worried about potential disturbances caused by Niduk. But Cheol scoffs at his concern, deeming it excessive. As long as the blue energy continues running through the tube, any issue that arises will inevitably resolve itself. A shift in the atmosphere signals unease. Gugu turns toward the captive girl, his voice dripping with condescension as he questions whether she even understands what this thing truly is. Before she can respond, he supplies the answer himself. The pulsing, vibrant core is none other than the heart of Minerva, the very system that they had helped Rio construct. He revels in her ignorance, scoffing at how little she and her kind know. Beneath Yongsan lies a massive crack, a fissure from which all their energy is drawn. On its own, it is highly volatile, far too dangerous to be used recklessly. Hence, the necessity of purification through a network of intricate devices. Minerva, the guardian goddess of Yongsan, was designed to refine this energy, to systematize its raw potential into a form of infinite power. With thinly veiled arrogance, Gugu and Cheol take pleasure in intimidating the captive, reminding her of their dominance. They mockingly remark that those like her had only climbed to their positions because they had married well. Without their husbands, what power did they truly have? Their jeering voices sharpen into threats, asking if she would like to be cast out if she would dare risk her husband's fate along with her own. But their taunts are suddenly interrupted. From above, a low hum intensifies into a deafening buzz. A resounding thud shakes the entire structure. The air stills for half a breath before a monstrous red figure descends upon them. The red robot lands before them with unrelenting force. Before Cheol and Gugu can even comprehend the situation, the mechanical beast launches forward. The impact is brutal, sending them reeling. The red entity regards them with cold amusement before shifting its gaze toward Minerva's core. A scoff escapes it, disdainful of how such immense power is being squandered. This system, this potential, is being wasted here. With a flick of its arm, an ominous energy swirls to life, its intent unmistakable. It seeks to claim Minerva's power for itself. In the distance, Rio watches with growing unease. On the AI screen, Minerva's form flickers. Something is wrong. He calls out to her, his voice tinged with concern, but she falters. Panic sets in as he tries to reach Cheol and Gugu. His calls go unanswered. Meanwhile, Niduk turns his gaze toward the sky. The atmosphere is shifting. The sky once stable is now drenched in an eerie crimson hue. The building trembles as its structure begins to shift. And then, from its depths, the red monster emerges. Energy crackles through the air as the figure speaks. The dimensional energy absorption rate 1080%. And it keeps rising. The maximum threshold has long been surpassed. Standing at the heart of this upheaval is UPI Minerva's original creator. His eyes gleam with intent. With Minerva under his control, he will reconstruct Yongsan. This flawed utopia, the illusion of peace they so foolishly embraced, he will rip it apart. With Minerva's power, he will rebuild from the ashes. Power surges in his grasp, an overwhelming force ready to be unleashed. His voice rings with finality. His first order of business is to eliminate unnecessary obstacles. A blinding surge of energy erupts from his palm, 20 billion volts of pure devastation aimed directly at Niduk, who hovers in the sky. But unlike others who might flinch in terror, Niduk remains unfazed. No, more than that, his lips curl into a grin. Hunger glints in his eyes, feral and insatiable. UPI, for all his might, has unwittingly made a fatal mistake. For Niduk, this is not a battle to fear. This is a feast. UPI stands firm, his expression unwavering as Niduk prepares to attack. The air around her distorts, her insatiable hunger evident in the way she readies herself to consume him whole. But UPI remains unfazed. With a swift motion, he raises his hand, forming a barrier that encases him in a protective shield. A scoff escapes his lips as he remarks that her attacks will have no effect. He has studied her abilities thoroughly, dissected the nature of her power, and now, armed with this knowledge, he is prepared to counter her every move. Declaring that it is time to witness the true power of science, UPI watches as Niduk unleashes Predator Breath, the very force that allows her to disintegrate matter and reconstruct it into a form she can consume. However, her attack fails to make even the slightest dent in his barrier. Smirking, UPI reminds her that he has already deciphered her strategy. He understands that her power functions by breaking down all matter before reshaping it to her will. Confidently, he invites her to try and destroy the cage he has created, but assures her that it will be a futile effort. With Minerva providing him with an unlimited supply of energy, he can sustain this defense indefinitely. Drawing his sword, he proclaims that with this boundless energy, he will not only overpower her but also rebuild this corrupted place. With a single swing, a surge of force erupts from his blade, causing the surrounding ruins to collapse. The crumbling buildings threaten to crush those still within their reach, but just as disaster seems inevitable, a protective barrier forms around them. The source of this shield is Rio, who steps forward and assures everyone that they are safe as long as he is there. Without hesitation, he urges them to evacuate before the battlefield becomes even more dangerous. UPI's gaze shifts to Rio, and a realization dawns upon him. This is the true purpose of Minerva. It was never designed merely to supply the city with energy. No, Minerva holds the power to reshape the world itself. Yet, despite the overwhelming force against her, Niduk refuses to surrender. UPI raises his sword once more, prepared to end her for good. Rio, watching in disbelief, struggles to comprehend how easily Niduk is being overpowered. The raw might of Minerva as a weapon leaves him shaken. Perhaps, he thinks, he was not wrong after all. Then, UPI calls out to him. Something about the way he speaks sends a jolt through Rio. He recognizes that voice. UPI questions him, asking if this is all because of the promise he made with that woman and the other lords. He speaks of Yongsan No, of all his soul rotting away, while Rio remains complacent in the face of what he has built. Before Rio can respond, Yanjiang interjects, demanding to know if Rio is familiar with UPI. Rio steps in, providing the answer. UPI is none other than one of the brilliant developers who helped construct Yongsan. The very core of Minerva's system was born from the collaboration between him and Rio. Without UPI, the project would have been impossible. Yanjiang, struggling to understand, presses further. If UPI was instrumental in creating Minerva, then why is he now turning against them? Frustration flares in Rio's voice as he confronts UPI directly. He tells him that it seems like he still hasn't let go of the past. War weapons are no longer needed, and Minerva's purpose is not one of destruction. UPI's expression darkens, his patience wearing thin. He sneers at Rio's words, accusing him of submitting to Sua's power, of accepting her rule simply out of fear. His voice rises in anger as he demands to know what Rio has traded in exchange for this so-called peace. The abandonment of weapon development? UPI scoffs, calling it nonsense. But Rio refuses to back down. He reminds UPI that after Niduk was defeated, Minerva nearly destroyed everything. If they had not intervened and controlled it, the city would have been annihilated. UPI seethes, his anger reaching a breaking point. He cannot believe what he is hearing. Earlier, he was the one who took down Niduk, not Sua. And yet, Rio refuses to acknowledge it. It becomes clear UPI holds a deep-seated resentment toward Sua.